My beloved child, listen carefully. Don't skip this message. Stay till the end, because this story is about a challenge many people face without even realizing it. Sometimes, relationships do not become difficult because love disappears. Sometimes they become difficult because fear, misunderstanding, outside opinions, and unspoken emotions slowly build walls between two hearts. This is not a claim about your personal life or a certainty about your future. It is a story about how faith, wisdom, patience, and honest communication can overcome obstacles that seem impossible at first. What happened next changed everything, not because circumstances changed overnight, but because two hearts slowly began to see the truth more clearly. Your special person had been carrying a feeling they could no longer ignore. Every time they thought they were ready to move forward, another voice seemed to fill their mind with doubt. Sometimes it came through criticism from people around them. Sometimes it came through old fears they had never fully healed from. Sometimes it was simply the weight of past disappointments convincing them that opening their heart again would only lead to more pain. Day after day they smiled on the outside, but inside they felt torn between what fear was whispering and what hope was quietly reminding them. They could sense that something was standing between peace and the future they longed for, yet they struggled to understand exactly what it was. Listen carefully, because one evening everything became different. After another exhausting day of overthinking, they finally stopped searching for quick answers. Instead, they found a quiet place to pray. They asked God for wisdom instead of certainty, for courage instead of comfort, and for the strength to recognize truth even when it challenged their own assumptions. That prayer did not immediately remove every obstacle, but it began changing something much deeper. Their heart became calmer. Their thoughts became clearer. They realized that fear grows louder when we stop seeking wisdom, but faith grows stronger every time we place our trust in God rather than our own understanding. As the days continued, they began noticing how easily outside opinions had shaped their decisions. Every conversation seemed to pull them in a different direction. One person encouraged them to give up. Another told them to protect themselves at all costs. Someone else insisted they should never trust again. They suddenly realized that allowing every voice to influence them had made it almost impossible to hear the quiet guidance of God. So they stepped back. They spent less time listening to constant noise and more time reflecting, praying, and seeking wisdom through Scripture. In the silence, they discovered something they had been missing all along: peace does not come from following every opinion. It comes from walking faithfully with God. Stay till the end, because this changes everything. During one quiet morning, they remembered how often misunderstandings had created distance in important relationships. Words left unsaid had become assumptions. Fear had become silence. Silence had become emotional distance. They realized that many barriers are not built by enemies but by unresolved conversations, wounded hearts, and the reluctance to speak honestly with kindness. That discovery humbled them. Instead of blaming everyone else, they began asking God to help them become someone who communicates with grace, listens with patience, and responds with compassion. My beloved child, there will always be voices in this world trying to tell you what to fear, who to distrust, and when to give up. Yet wisdom calls us to examine every situation carefully rather than assuming the worst. Your special person has begun learning that not every obstacle is created by another person. Sometimes the greatest barriers are pride, insecurity, unforgiveness, unrealistic expectations, or old wounds that have never fully healed. As God gently revealed these hidden struggles, they did not feel condemned. They felt invited into a process of healing that would allow them to move forward with greater maturity and deeper faith. Listen carefully, because another beautiful lesson began unfolding. They started praying not only for their own heart but also for the wisdom to treat others with kindness, even when misunderstandings remained. They chose forgiveness where resentment once seemed easier. They chose patience where frustration had once taken control. They chose humility over the desire to always be right. Those choices did not instantly solve every problem, but they changed the atmosphere around them. Peace slowly replaced tension. Hope quietly returned where discouragement had once lived. Every faithful decision became another step toward emotional freedom. As weeks passed, they realized that genuine love cannot be sustained by fear or controlled by outside pressure. Healthy relationships require honesty, trust, respect, forgiveness, and the willingness to grow together through life's challenges. They understood that while they could not control every circumstance or every opinion, they could choose how they responded. They could choose integrity instead of manipulation. They could choose grace instead of bitterness. They could choose prayer instead of panic. Those choices became the strongest foundation they had ever built. Don't skip this final moment, because the greatest lesson of all was still waiting. Looking back, your special person realized that the greatest victory was not proving someone wrong or removing every obstacle overnight. The greatest victory was allowing God to transform their own heart first. They became slower to judge, quicker to forgive, and more willing to trust God's wisdom than their own fears. They discovered that when a heart is rooted in faith, guided by truth, and shaped by love, it becomes far more difficult for misunderstanding, fear, or outside pressure to steal its peace. So if this story speaks to your heart today, let it be a reminder to seek wisdom before making assumptions, to pray before reacting, and to choose love that is marked by patience, humility, and truth. Whatever challenges relationships may face, a life anchored in faith, honest communication, and compassion is far stronger than fear or confusion. The most lasting miracles often begin quietly, with one sincere prayer, one humble conversation, and one faithful step taken in God's grace. And sometimes, those small beginnings become the foundation of a beautiful new chapter that no obstacle can easily overcome. My beloved child, listen carefully, because this chapter begins where appearances can no longer be trusted. Don't skip. Stay till the end, because not every distance between two people is created by a lack of love. Sometimes it is created by misunderstandings that were never corrected, fears that were never spoken aloud, and burdens that were carried in silence for far too long. Your special person has begun to realize that protecting their heart by remaining silent has only made the distance feel greater. Every day they replay conversations in their mind, wondering what might have been different if they had chosen honesty over fear. The answers do not come all at once, but a quiet desire for truth begins growing stronger than the desire to hide. That small change becomes the beginning of something they never expected. There are evenings when they sit alone, reflecting on every decision that brought them to this moment. They no longer spend all their energy blaming circumstances or other people. Instead, they courageously examine their own heart. They ask God to reveal where pride may have spoken louder than humility, where fear may have replaced trust, and where silence may have prevented healing. These are not easy prayers to pray, but they are sincere. With every honest conversation they have with God, another layer of confusion begins falling away. They realize that true healing often starts when we stop defending ourselves and allow God to gently reshape our hearts. Listen carefully, because another lesson quietly unfolds before them. They begin noticing how quickly assumptions can become walls between people. A delayed message becomes a misunderstanding. A quiet moment becomes a false conclusion. An unanswered question becomes an imagined story that grows larger with every passing day. They understand now that many relationships are not damaged by a lack of care but by a lack of clear communication. This realization humbles them. Instead of assuming the worst, they begin choosing patience. Instead of reacting immediately, they pause, pray, and seek wisdom before speaking. That single habit starts changing the atmosphere around them. Stay till the end, because this changes everything. During a peaceful morning walk, they noticed how a narrow path through a forest remained visible only because someone continued walking it day after day. If no one traveled that path, it would slowly disappear beneath weeds and fallen leaves. As they reflected on that image, they understood that trust works in a similar way. Trust grows through consistent honesty, kindness, and faithfulness over time. It cannot be forced, and it cannot be rebuilt through one dramatic moment alone. It grows step by step, choice by choice, conversation by conversation. That understanding gave them patience they had never possessed before. My beloved child, your special person is also learning that outside voices become powerful only when they are louder than God's wisdom. There will always be opinions pulling people in different directions. Some voices encourage fear. Others encourage pride. Some tell people to give up too quickly, while others push them to act without wisdom. Your special person has begun stepping away from constant noise and spending more time in quiet prayer and thoughtful reflection. In that stillness they discover that God's guidance is gentle, steady, and never driven by panic. His wisdom leads toward truth, humility, and peace rather than confusion. Listen carefully, because another beautiful change is taking place. They are becoming someone who listens more carefully than they speak. They have learned that understanding another person's heart requires patience, compassion, and genuine humility. Instead of trying to win every disagreement, they now seek understanding. Instead of keeping score of every mistake, they choose grace. They understand that lasting relationships are strengthened not by perfection but by the willingness to forgive, to grow, and to learn together through life's challenges. Every act of humility becomes another brick in a stronger foundation. As the days continue, they begin noticing that peace no longer depends on having complete certainty about the future. Their peace comes from knowing they are choosing integrity today. They are speaking honestly. They are treating others with respect. They are praying before making important decisions. They are trusting God with what remains beyond their control. That quiet confidence becomes stronger than fear because it is built upon daily faithfulness rather than changing emotions. Don't skip this final moment, because another chapter is waiting just beyond today's horizon. Your special person no longer believes that every obstacle must be defeated through force or urgency. They have discovered that some of life's greatest barriers are overcome through patience, wisdom, prayer, forgiveness, and steady acts of love. They understand that hearts often heal gradually, trust is rebuilt one faithful choice at a time, and God's grace continues working even when progress feels slow. So they move forward without panic, holding tightly to faith, choosing truth over assumption, compassion over judgment, and hope over fear. And with every faithful step they take, they become more prepared for whatever beautiful chapter God places before them next, knowing that a life rooted in His love will never be built in vain. My beloved child, listen carefully, because this chapter begins with a question that your special person could no longer avoid. Don't skip. Stay till the end, because what they are about to discover has the power to change the direction of their entire journey. There comes a moment when every heart must decide whether it will continue living according to fear or begin walking according to faith. For a long time, they believed that protecting themselves from disappointment was the safest choice. They built emotional walls so high that even hope struggled to find a way inside. Yet as the days passed, those walls no longer felt like protection. They felt like a prison. Quietly, almost without noticing, they began praying for the courage to let God tear down everything fear had built. Night after night, they found themselves remembering conversations they had almost forgotten. Not because they wanted to relive the past, but because they were beginning to understand those moments differently. They realized that many words had been spoken through pain rather than understanding. Many silences had been created by uncertainty rather than rejection. They saw how easily two people can misread each other's intentions when fear becomes louder than compassion. Instead of allowing regret to consume them, they asked God to replace regret with wisdom. They could not rewrite yesterday, but they could choose how they would live today. Listen carefully, because another quiet transformation was taking place inside their heart. They stopped looking for someone else to fix every problem and began allowing God to change them first. Every morning became another opportunity to become more patient. Every difficult conversation became another opportunity to practice humility. Every disappointment became another opportunity to grow stronger in faith instead of weaker in hope. They discovered that lasting change rarely begins by demanding something from another person. It begins when we allow God to refine our own character. That lesson became one of the greatest gifts they had ever received. Stay till the end, because what happened during one ordinary afternoon stayed with them forever. While watching a gardener carefully remove weeds from around a growing plant, they noticed something beautiful. The gardener did not pull up the plant simply because weeds had appeared. Instead, he patiently removed whatever prevented healthy growth while protecting the roots that still carried life. At that moment, your special person realized that God often works the same way. He patiently removes pride, bitterness, insecurity, and fear. Not to punish us, but to create room for love, wisdom, and peace to grow. The process may feel slow, but every step has purpose. My beloved child, there will always be voices encouraging quick conclusions and immediate reactions. Some people will tell you to assume the worst. Others will encourage anger before understanding. But your special person has begun learning that wisdom moves differently. Wisdom pauses before speaking. Wisdom listens before judging. Wisdom prays before reacting. They have discovered that some of the greatest mistakes in life happen when people allow emotions to speak louder than truth. By choosing patience instead, they have found a peace that hurried decisions could never provide. Listen carefully, because another beautiful chapter is unfolding. They have started noticing small opportunities to encourage people every single day. A kind word to someone carrying hidden burdens. A quiet prayer for a friend facing uncertainty. A simple act of generosity that no one else may ever notice. These moments may seem ordinary, but they are becoming part of a much greater story. Every act of love reflects the character God is shaping within them. Every act of kindness becomes another reminder that the world changes one faithful choice at a time. As the weeks continue, they begin understanding that hope is not built upon perfect circumstances. Hope grows when we remember God's faithfulness through every previous season. They think back to moments when they believed they would never recover from disappointment, yet God carried them through. They remember prayers answered in unexpected ways and strength that arrived exactly when they needed it most. Those memories become anchors during new storms. Whenever doubt whispers that the future is uncertain, they answer by remembering how faithfully God has led them before. His faithfulness yesterday gives them courage for today and confidence for tomorrow. Don't skip this final moment, because it prepares the way for another remarkable chapter. Your special person no longer believes that obstacles have the final word. They understand that while challenges are real, so is God's ability to shape hearts through them. They now choose understanding over assumption, forgiveness over resentment, humility over pride, and faith over fear. With every sunrise, they become more convinced that the strongest relationships are built upon honesty, grace, patience, and trust in God. They continue walking forward with quiet confidence, knowing that no season of sincere prayer, faithful obedience, or genuine love is ever wasted. And as they place each new day into God's hands, they discover that the greatest victory is not simply overcoming obstacles. It is becoming the kind of person whose heart reflects His peace, His wisdom, and His unfailing love through every chapter still waiting to be written. My beloved child, listen carefully, because this chapter begins with a silence that speaks louder than words. Don't skip. Stay till the end, because there are moments when nothing appears to be changing on the outside, while everything is changing within the heart. Your special person has entered one of those moments. The world around them continues moving at its usual pace, yet deep inside they can feel that they are no longer the same person they were only a short time ago. The fears that once seemed impossible to overcome no longer carry the same power. The doubts that once whispered through every quiet evening are becoming softer with each passing day. God has been teaching them that true strength is not found in never feeling afraid. True strength is choosing faith every time fear tries to take control. That lesson has become the foundation of a completely different life. Late one evening, after another long day filled with responsibilities, they stepped outside and looked up at the endless sky. The stars stretched across the darkness like tiny reminders that God's creation continues faithfully night after night without asking for recognition. As they stood there, they realized something beautiful. Every star shines because it remains exactly where it was created to be. It does not compare itself to the stars beside it. It does not compete for attention. It simply fulfills the purpose for which it was made. That thought settled deeply into their heart. They had spent far too much of their life comparing their journey with everyone else's. Now they understood that God had written a unique path for them, one that could not be measured by another person's story.